Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in this evening for the Sex and Suicide Women Crush Wednesday podcast. Beautiful guest in front of me, longtime friend, Voula Zervakos. I said that right?
Yes.
Nailed it.
I nailed it?
You did.
And the co-host who is a permanent fixture these days, Mr. Brandon Ferris. Thanks for joining us, buddy.
You're welcome.
Are we going to do the high five now?
Let's do it now and after.
I don't know about the high five,
Okay.
so I
Hand
need to
in
be
slowly.
Okay.
Yeah, slowly.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, done.
Okay.
Sometimes there'll be the still for the video.
That's amazing.
The
Right?
YouTube video.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
The
I
last
love it.
time we did one where we had when Vedran came and we had booster juice.
Yeah.
And we all had the booster juice because he had like extra protein. He brought us this whole little
he did.
concoction.
Which was awesome, by the way.
It was
That
delicious.
I forgot to ask him what he did because it was really good.
We'll ask him.
He probably
and
won't
the-
tell you his secret to his recipe.
He bought it from Booster Juice. It's not a secret.
Oh, okay.
It just means a certain thing.
Booster juice should have been paying for that episode. But
We'll
anyway.
work on that.
Yeah.
That's our next venture.
So let's get going with Miss Voula here and
Okay.
see how she's doing. We met. Let's go back in time for a
Okay,
minute.
yes.
How many years have we known each other?
Ooh.
At least.
Okay, at least 5.
At least 5.
At least 5, but I'm thinking maybe it's pushing 6 or 7.
6 or 7.
Yeah.
Oh, I've known
Okay.
you that long too.
That might be true.
Yeah.
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 That might
Through-
be
How
Aaron.
how do you guys know each other?
I originally met you through Aaron Brennan.
Yes. So I actually met Brandon through my best friend and
Okay.
her now husband.
Oh, really?
Her
Yes.
husband is one of my best friends.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, that's true.
And
So
did-
yeah, you're right.
Were you not his boss at one point in time?
I was
you
his
were.
boss at one point
For a
in
short
time.
period of time.
It was a short period of
Yeah.
time, so
It was
I
a
don't
lot of
know.
fun, though. Great
I don't know
boss.
what that says about me as a boss.
No,
like,
no,
I,
you-
No, it says a lot more about him. Trust me.
Oh, 100% for sure. However, you were a great boss. It's just,
Thank
I couldn't
you.
do
You were
it.
a great employee.
I tried.
How many?
You did very well.
You
you.
have been the boss of a lot of people in this city.
Oh, God.
I'm just thinking about that.
That's probably true.
And,
yeah.
and where we met was Robinson Hall
Yes.
here in London, Ontario.
Yep.
And
where
are
I
you
work.
still doing stuff for that? You know, I don't. It's Robinson Hall and now it's Hudson, right?
Hudson, yeah.
Is it the two of them and that's it?
It's the 2 of them, and that's it. So the owner actually has a third bar called the Belfort, but I'm
Okay.
not involved in that part of the project.
You were at one point. Though,
I was
right?
at one point.
Oh,
So
yeah.
there was
Remember
a
that place.
time where that bar was called the Gatsby.
Yes.
I
I love that.
It
I
was,
just love the name.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was the best name to explain what was happening over there.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
It was 2 solid years of what was Las Vegas, just plopped in the middle of London,
Yeah.
in the middle of an industrial building. Like, there's a concrete plant next door to us
Yeah.
in some random rug store.
Yeah.
And here in this industrial building is this gorgeous bar with these wild parties.
Yeah.
And the bar fits 1,100 people.
Yeah, it
So
was
at any
good.
given night, there are like 1,100 people
Mm-hmm.
inside, plus whoever you have outside, and it's just wild.
Yeah, and you were able to section it off. So if it wasn't busy, you could still fill certain rooms. It was
Yeah.
it was a weird layout. And to
wicked
be
layout.
honest, I spent more time in that place when it was the Forum, which was a
Oh, yeah.
infamous strip club
I
here
never
in
went
London.
there. I never went there.
You
It was a
never
forum.
went there?
I'm not a strip club guy.
I
strip
went
club
through a
guy.
phase. I went through a phase in
I
high
went through the
school.
phase, buddy.
You never did?
High school?
High school. You get your
Yeah.
fake ID. You get your
Whoa.
fake ID. Yeah, that's when the Fabulous Forum was. I was still in high school.
You're only a couple years older than
And
me.
we'd go, I know, but we'd go to the Fabulous Forum strip club, and they had a prime rib special for lunch.
No.
So we'd go there on like a Friday, get the prime rib, watch some titties in our face, and then that
Good for
was
you.
go back to school. Like, how do you go back to
That's what I was just
class
about to say.
Yeah, I was
after
gonna
that?
say.
I'm pretty sure most of the time we ended up taking off for the rest of the afternoon.
You have to.
Tits and then parabolas.
Yeah, tits and then geography class. Where can I find the tits?
Yeah. I don't understand this math question.
Yeah.
Did you answer tits?
Yeah, but let's get back to your business.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
always.
We can talk about tits on this whole podcast, but we'll get back to your business. So, what is your role now? Like, you've been there so long, you've been so dedicated to that place.
Yeah, I have.
Are you like a part owner?
No, I'm not.
Almost?
No, not even close.
We got to get you there.
Yeah, right.
Someday.
I don't
It'll
know
happen.
if I'm part owner. I think John would just freak out
They
because
need
that,
you
that
there.
would be too much involvement. You know?
Really?
Yeah, because he can tell me to shut up.
I see.
But no, I actually love my role. So I'm still managing there. So I've
Yeah.
been managing there probably 5 years. So the previous 5 years to that was serving and bartending.
Right.
And the best part about it is I know every nook and cranny there. So it's a lot of things just come so naturally. Or
Right.
when you're trying to build on something, you have such a good basis that it's easy to kind of adapt to any sort of changes, because that's the most consistent part of the industry, is that every day
Right.
is different and it will always change.
Right.
Nothing
Right.
ever stays the same in the bar industry.
No, so you have to be a bit of a chameleon in that sense.
You totally do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do a great job of it. I remember
Thanks.
everyone that's ever met you always says what a sweetheart you are.
Thanks. I'm sure there's a couple people that disagree, but
Maybe.
We haven't met them yet.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
And then we'll knock
They're in
them out.
hiding.
Yeah.
Scottish kiss. Scottish kiss. Actually, she's the glue that runs that place together. When I was working there with the employees, you're the actual glue that keeps everyone sane there.
Thanks. I try.
I think you're like you're the woman that you go to too. If like someone wants to rag about another staff member, you can kind of talk some sense, and you're like the mediator in a way too.
I think a big part of it is just being in it for so long. I've heard and dealt with so many issues that now I look at myself 5 years ago and I'm like, oh, I would never do that, or I'd never handle a situation like that, because I've just come through so much that I can now feel most effectively can deal with what needs to be dealt with.
So you're in like you feel like the management role that you're in is now something that you fit perfectly.
Absolutely.
Sure.
And it's almost and to the point now where it's not even just it's not a job. It's I have friends that work there. I've built personal relationships. I've have people who I did not know at the beginning of time when they started working there, and now I'm great friends with them. Mm-hmm. So there's this whole personal aspect to it that just makes it that much more fun.
Right.
People are like, oh, don't you hate giving up your Friday, Saturdays all the time?
Right.
And I'm like, I'm here with my friends.
Yeah,
I'm listening to good music. I'm getting paid.
Yeah.
It's a great party.
Yeah.
Sure, there's stressors, but I mean, 2:00 happens every single night.
Yeah.
So it's going to end. If it's the worst night of your life, it's going to end at 2:00.
Yeah.
So, you just power through and whatever happens, you learn something from it.
And how are you finding? Are you still doing real estate?
I am still doing real
And
estate.
you're commercial real estate, right?
Yes.
I haven't looked at. Is it still ICX? Or is it something different?
No, they got rid of ICX.
Okay,
so
so
now it's all MLS now.
It's all okay. So I haven't even looked at it since it was ICX. I don't look at commercial very often.
No need.
How are you? Yeah. Well, especially in this market. How is commercial doing in this market?
Commercial is a little bit slow right now.
Is
so
it?
Yeah. So I particularly work in the office world and the retail world.
Right.
And office is super slow right now. And
Really?
retail's pretty good, but it's mostly food users.
Do you ever think that maybe you want to get into the single family residential?
Okay. So interesting story.
Yeah. Just because of what's going on right now.
Yeah, it's super tempting.
Yep.
But actually, I'm leaving my job and going to a new job tomorrow.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So what's the new job? What's the new role?
So I'm
Perfect timing.
Yeah,
wow.
perfect timing.
Yeah.
That's not planned, by the way.
So I'm in brokerage right now.
Okay.
And not that I don't love it, and I love the guys that I work with. I've been there for 5 years, and they're incredible. And everything that I know is due to these, 3 other people that I work with.
Right.
And it's an interesting dynamic working with 3 other guys, being the only girl on a team,
Right.
especially in the commercial world, because there's just not a lot of girls in commercial. I
Right.
can count the number of female commercial
Yeah.
commercial agents on my hand.
Right. Next door is one.
Yes. Yeah. She's awesome.
Yeah.
She does a great job. She kills it.
She does kill it. She's a boss when it comes to.
Oh, totally. She knows how to
I'm
run
not going to
things.
give her a shout out though.
Okay, that's fair.
But anyway.
I wouldn't if I wanted
So
to.
tell me the.
So I've decided to switch and work for a developer. So I'm still going to be in the commercial world.
Yep.
So they do a ton of retail projects, which is awesome because I love the retail side of things.
For the viewers that don't know exactly what you
Yes.
mean by going for that switching, it's not you're switching the industry.
I'm not
You're
switching
switching
industry.
the aspect of the industry. you're
Correct,
in. Can you
yes.
Go ahead and explain that. to some of the
Sure.
viewers.
So when you're in brokerage,
Mm-hmm.
the idea behind it is that there's 2 different worlds. You can help what we call landlords or people that own buildings
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
to lease those spaces or sell that building if they want to
for
sell
commercial
it.
purposes.
For commercial
like
purposes.
a store or something
Right.
like that.
So you wouldn't be necessary. So you can sell a business. I personally don't do that. But
Mm-hmm.
let's say
Yeah.
Sean has a building, it's vacant, and it's an office building, and he needs an office user.
Okay.
I will help him find an office user that's suitable for that space, and we'll get them to lease that space. So
That's
very
really
similar to buying a home, right?
Yeah.
On
Yeah.
the flip side, you could also be on the side of Sean and you guys need a studio.
Yeah.
So you guys hire me, and I find you fantastic studio space.
Okay.
So I go out and search the market and find the
Not a bad
perfect
idea.
space
That is
based
actually-
on your budget.
Look at you, you little saleswoman.
Yeah, right?
She's just putting ideas in her mind
Yeah.
right now.
I can't turn it off.
Such a hustler. I love it.
Can't turn it off.
I love it.
Here's all my money.
Yeah, perfect. I'll take it.
Yeah.
So that's what you kind of do in brokerage in a nutshell.
Right.
So when you're working for a developer, you're actually working for the person that goes out, buys the land or owns the land, will build the buildings, and then also does the leasing all in-house.
Right.
So in some cases, developers do reach out to brokers and
Right.
to help them, but generally speaking, they kind of do all of that in-house.
Right.
So that's what I'm switching to. So I would, rather than working for somebody on a kind of contractual basis where I have an agreement with them. I'm actually just working with the guy that owns the land, is building the buildings, has the construction company, and is going.
Okay.
Yeah.
So more freelance for you.
Are you kind of exclusively his then, or do you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you can't really do.
Never mind.
He's actually really cool, and he's totally told me that if I want to take on something, as long as it doesn't affect the business, I'm more than welcome to.
Right.
But I'm definitely diving into a huge project.
Sure.
So I think that there is absolutely no time to be doing that right now.
Are you allowed to talk about it? Or is
I don't think that it's like, I don't think it's a big like secret.
Okay.
Like I've already told my job. So
okay.
So I'm working for York Developments.
Okay.
So yeah, so they're huge in London, and the company's actually somewhat small if you look at the number of people that actually work there. So when you go and look at their office, you're like, I can't believe you have this much property doing this many projects with this many people.
Right.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's like, it's mind blowing.
It's going to be a lot of work for you is what you're kind of saying.
You know what? I'm so excited though. There's just so much I've been so curious to learn what happens after a lease. Cause when you're a brokerage, you do the lease and you're on to the next deal.
Sure.
And there's all these things that happen after. And I'm like, I want to know more about
Going
this.
down the rabbit hole.
Yeah. You're absolutely right.
Open the door, and now here we are.
And
there you go.
And you're still going to be able to juggle the nightlife stuff with that?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
You've done a great job so far.
Sane still. So
I've definitely, when I jumped into real estate from the beginning, I had no knowledge of real estate, nothing. So, and at some point I took on that position and was working at Robinson Hall. Then I decided to do my real estate license and work at CBRE and work at Robinson Hall.
Yeah.
So I think just based on my past, I look at the things that I've accomplished to date and I'm like, okay, I definitely have done this before. I've been down this path, and if it's 2 less hours of sleep, it's totally worth it.
Sure. And you're more experienced now as well, right? So
Absolutely.
those little things you had to learn before, you already have those locked down.
Exactly. And I also we also have a new manager on board, Mike Robertson. So he's
shout out to Mike.
Shout out to Mike.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
He's a beauty.
Yeah.
He is a beauty.
So
I'm super pumped to be working with him, and he's also going to be taking like a lead hand in that too. So
awesome.
having such a strong partner in this project is going to be awesome. You know, like Mike has been in the restaurant industry for so long that he knows his stuff, and he's a great personality. So
I remember, I think I was with him the day after he got the job. He was just starting at, it was Thorny that he started at, was it not?
Yeah,
or Robinson.
I think it was. Well, usually when you get hired for both.
Right.
But he's such a fit for Robinson Hall. Like it's, he just, like, women love him.
Yeah,
it's impossible not to love the guy. He's just got so much. It's the beard. Totally.
Ask him where he learned his beard from.
You?
Yeah. Remember my beard?
I do.
Oh, you like that?
Yeah. And well, I've only seen pictures.
Oh yeah. You remember how big my beard was? I think.
Oh yeah.
It was a big one.
I should grow back. I was like this.
Holy shit.
Oh yeah.
That's a commitment.
It is. It was about a year and a half.
Yeah. A year and a half.
I can grow beard fast like that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like Mike should name his beard.
There's no hair here.
Yeah. So
it has all
it all pulls it. Gravity, man.
It is gravity. Yeah. Well, not really, because it doesn't go down there.
Yeah. I remember Mike. He was Jack Astor's before that, right?
Yeah, he was. But he's just like. Yeah, he's just so much personality. I love it. I love people who have a zest for life, like, because you just feed off of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's huge in the restaurant industry, because you're constantly on, right?
Yeah,
like,
you have to be.
You are. I don't want to say you're performing, because it's not artificial, but it is. But you are hosting for 8 hours straight, right? So you don't have time to like, you're hosting at home and you can go to your bedroom and like be like, okay, refresher, okay, good.
Sure.
Well, you're definitely performing. If you're exhausted, you're definitely performing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you're acting.
You're making money too.
Yeah, it's a performance, regardless. That's how a lot of bartenders are successful.
Yeah,
it's performing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
And
like, flirting.
Well, you're a professional flirter.
Sure.
I think if you're selling anything, you're technically flirting.
Sure.
That is true.
You make a really good point there. Yeah, I guess.
With no initiative to have anything other than what you're selling.
The sale, right?
But you're flirting.
Right. Have you ever gone overboard and tried to go beyond the sale?
When I worked at the Source at Fanshawe all the time. Yeah, all the time.
How old were you then?
I went to Fanshawe. I was 21.
When you were 21?
Yeah, I was 21 years old. It was a good time.
So you sold, and then you tried to sell yourself.
I did a little bit A, a little B. Sometimes I didn't even sell the product.
That's hilarious.
Oh, jeez.
That's so funny, man.
It's so hard to turn it off, though.
It is.
It's impossible. Like
Yeah.
when you're in sales or you're just in the industry, and it's just when you actually really love it, it's impossible to turn it off. Like
Yeah.
I totally know that I'm professional for it, 100%.
Yeah.
It's what happens.
Yeah.
And it's not intentional to be
Yeah.
anything other than that. It's just you're always trying to get the best out of someone and get them to like you.
Right.
At all times, no one's going to buy something from you if they don't like you.
Fair enough.
So
That's true.
your first goal is get them to like you, which is
Okay.
flirting. After that,
Yeah.
it's knowledge. After that, it's closing the deal.
And so in the bar industry, have you ever fallen for any of these gentlemen that you've started turning it on for and then maybe gone a little bit past that?
I probably definitely have.
Yeah, probably
I
definitely
probably definitely have. So really what I want to say is I definitely have.
Okay.
It's just like, it's such a hard, like, you know, if you're like single and like there's all these cute guys around and then all of a sudden you're talking to them and
Right.
like, you know, then they need you like
Working with them.
Yeah, or working with them, you know, or all of a sudden, you know, they're texting you to get into the bar and you're like, you know, you just start chatting, you're like, okay, whatever.
You get caught up in
Yeah,
it a little bit.
Totally get caught up
Well,
in
I
it.
remember because I don't want to go too far down memory lane here, but you were always the go-to girl for letting myself in, for sure. I'm not
Yeah.
going to comment on everybody else. But I know that
I
you're
still
always...
am.
Yeah, you still are.
I can still get all those text messages. I love it though.
Well, that's nice because a lot of people, I know that
Power.
Yeah. But it's
Power
nice
is
that...
addictive.
It totally is.
It's power.
It totally
when
is.
there's people though that you're responding to that are
Yeah.
spending money in your establishment and
Yeah.
they're good customers, they appreciate that. They're not going to go anywhere. Whereas there could be a dickhead that's like, I'm not even checking my phone tonight. Fuck that. And there are those guys out there.
Yep.
Absolutely.
They exist.
Yeah.
I can name them right now.
We don't do that here.
No naming names.
No names
No,
here.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I know better than that.
I love it though. I think it's amazing, and I think it's a big part of the business. And yeah, if somebody knows me well enough that they have my phone number, I talk to them on a regular basis, like they know about my personal life. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, like absolutely, I'm gonna let you in. Why not? You
Right.
know, that's what I strive for. Like I don't have a business card. Like I
Right.
actually don't. People are like, can I have your business card? I'm like, nope, but you can have my number,
Right.
And you can text me, and I'll help you.
That's almost
You know?
better. Like that's so much more personable.
Yeah, like I'm not giving you a card. Like I
Right.
want to know who you are as a person,
Yeah.
and you know, and
Yeah.
that's how you kind of build friendships and
Yeah.
business, and it's great.
What if you
That's-
put a business card with just an email so they can't get your number?
I'm totally fine with giving out my number.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Right.
Actually, it was funny. So my new boss is like,
Yeah.
can I put your cell phone number on your signature? And I was like, oh, absolutely. But in my head, I'm like, the whole city has my number. Like, you can, like, I should just put it on my house, on the door. Here's my number. Whatever you need, I'll help you out.
Has that ever backfired on you in relationships with when people text you at odd hours like that?
A little bit. Sometimes it depends on the person. If you're dating someone who is really understanding and they're pretty, like
they know what you
they
do.
just get it, or they work in the industry,
Yeah.
it's fine. I mean, I'm sure at some point it's a little bothersome. I mean, it always kind of comes out, but if as long as it doesn't really turn into a dramatic issue or a fight, it's
Right,
fine.
right.
But yeah, people are messaging me at all hours and all times, and I'm definitely talking to guys all the time.
Right.
So yeah, so I mean, it can become an issue.
Sure. So, I mean, you obviously need someone that's very secure with themselves.
Absolutely.
Okay. And I know that you've been through some shit in the past. And we won't name names.
All good.
But I know that you've gone through some things. I mean, do you want to talk a little bit about some of
Sure.
that stuff?
Yeah, sure.
I
So,
don't know any of this.
yeah. Well, some
this
of
all new to me.
some of the relationships, I know that some
Yeah,
of the
Sean knows a different lie to me.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
But you've always maintained the same happy-go-lucky kind of spirit. And I knew you were going through some tough shit. And I look back and I think like the guy that I am now would have stepped in and helped you a little more.
Yeah.
But at that time, I think it was such a difficult situation to be in because we didn't know what was going on, and some of the things that you went through, like. I'm not going to say who, but I know that your stuff would get thrown out the window. Your clothes would get thrown out of the house.
Oh, yeah.
Your car tires somehow got slashed.
Oh, yeah.
Jesus Christ.
What else happened? Like what else did you
What
go
the
through?
fuck went on?
It was crazy. So so I guess I went through a period in life. I would say probably a solid at least 2 years. Oh,
Yeah.
thanks, sorry. It's because like short people problems,
No,
right?
it's just, you know what? You're not used to it. That's all. It's
Okay,
fine.
thanks.
And if there's anything you don't want to talk
Yeah,
about,
no, I'm.
Please
I'm
say for it, yeah.
You know what? I think my biggest part of talking about it
Mm-hmm.
is that if my story reflects on anything that anybody is currently going through or
Absolutely.
has gone through and can kind of motivate them or make them
Good.
feel better or understand, like I'm not embarrassed of it. You
Right.
know, like
Great
it is
idea.
what it is, and
Yeah.
there's nothing for me to be ashamed of.
Not at all.
So I just went through a solid probably 2 years of just very
Would you say toxic?
Toxic is probably
an understatement.
Is probably polite.
Yeah.
Wow, Jesus.
Yeah. So toxic in just the
Christ.
sense of like a mental, emotional, physical abuse that was just.
It was
like,
physical, eh?
Totally, and it was.
We didn't. I don't think we knew about that.
No,
part.
and
I didn't know anything.
No.
It was all news to me. Yeah.
We can fill you in off
Yeah,
camera.
we'll fill
No,
you
this is all new to me. This is all new light.
Sure.
I've never known. You have this information.
Yeah,
ahead.
I know, and
seeing
it's-
her just goes to show what you said. But I would have had no
And
idea.
that's the thing is I don't think we really knew how bad it was.
I don't think anybody really knew how bad it was, and I think and a part of me also just like it's a part that doesn't really get talked about unless it gets brought up, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was, and the worst part about it is that it turns you into this person that is so exhausted to just live your life.
Oh wow.
Right.
You know, like
Yeah.
you just get to the point where every movement, every thought becomes so exhausting because there's always a repercussion to what you're doing. And it's so, and I don't mean repercussion in the sense of was doing something wrong, but I just knew
You have to hear about it.
You have to hear about it, or you just don't know how what the response is going to be, or you just don't know what the reaction is going to be.
Living in fear.
Yeah, you're basically
times.
living in fear.
Right.
And the part that is so interesting to me now when I look back on it and I always say, how did I get myself into this situation?
Yeah.
You know, like I have these lovely parents who have this lovely relationship and they're just, you know, like I grew up in this like what you think would be this very nurturing household to lead me to
The
kind
same
of
nurturing
relationship.
Yeah.
And like to this day, I still don't really exactly know, but sometimes I'm like, maybe I was just so naive that I didn't see the red flags.
That's a huge part of it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like maybe I was just so not exposed to things. I literally had the white picket fence that I just didn't, like I just didn't get it.
Your blinders on almost.
Totally.
Yeah.
And also, I think part of me always trying to see the good in people and always hoping that things will change. But yeah, it gets to the point where you're like, how did I get there? Like, how did that happen?
So, can I ask you a question about?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, is this relationship that kind of had the boiled frog effect, where it slowly got worse and worse and worse?
Yeah,
Or did
totally.
you start off bad? Okay, then there's the answer.
Yeah.
So did you start off bad and then try to fix somebody?
Actually, okay, if those are the options, a little bit of both.
Okay,
but
there you
it
go.
didn't start off bad.
Okay.
So I think everything started off hunky dory. It was great, and like to put in perspective, like the person that I was dating, I actually had a friendship with or knew years before. So this wasn't
Tweaks.
yeah, like I mean,
Right.
Control.
we had tons of common friends. Like it was great.
Yeah.
And it kind of got like things were great, and it got to the point where we moved in together, and then from there it was like
Night and day.
it was
Jekyll
like
and Hyde?
totally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yep.
And I was looking and witnessing, I was looking at myself and witnessing things and living in this world that was just so surreal. Like
Yeah.
I can't even, sometimes I don't even know if those things actually happened.
Wow.
Because I'm like, oh my God, like these are stories that I can tell,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
It's interesting. It's very interesting for me now watching girls that I work with at the bar
Go through
talk
similar-
about their relationships, and like I just feel so incredibly obligated
Motherly.
to voice my concerns or
Right.
my opinions.
Good for
because
you.
and whether they listen or not is a whole
Probably
nother story.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't listen
Yeah.
at some point too, but I think there's this part of me that just I have to verbalize my story. So I
Right.
think most of the girls that work with me at the bar probably know all about this because I just feel so strongly that I just need to tell them, like, by the way,
Right.
there are people like this out there,
Yeah.
who are very good at,
Disguising it. Yeah.
or once
Manipulating.
there's a comfort level, their insecurities just totally come out.
Right. That makes sense. And I think, like, in all fairness, I've made my share of mistakes in relationships as well. There's been points where it's been toxic,
all
and I look
have.
back,
Yeah.
and I want to beat the shit out of my younger self, And it's this whole thing is about helping to share stories that women have overcome and what the mindset was that it took to get there. So, like, what was it? It sounds a lot like when you say it was like every task was, it seemed like it required a bunch of energy to get through the day. It sounds a lot like this situation put you into a bit of depression to me.
Yeah, it was. I wouldn't say that it was full out like clinical,
Right,
but
absolutely.
definitely a state of. So I remember being at work one day,
Yeah.
and I was, this girl just totally just did everything wrong. And it was, and whether that was bad training or whatever, it doesn't really matter. It just did everything wrong. And I totally freaked out.
Right.
And my best friend, who actually used to work at Robinson Hall, looks at me and he's like, okay, I know that you're a bit of a pit bull, but that was too much. And I was like, okay.
So you're becoming someone else.
So I was totally becoming someone else because my instant reaction to everything was to get aggressive because everything towards me
conditioned.
Well, that was what I was conditioned to at that time, right? So I, like, maybe this is like way too personal, but I literally remember standing in my living room one day and like just being yelled at. I don't even know why I was being yelled at. I was just being yelled at.
Right.
And I was drinking a glass of water and I took the glass and I chucked it into the kitchen against the like backsplash.
Right.
Which is like not
like you at all.
me at all. Right. Yeah. But I just turned into a completely different person. Like I just had this whole thought process that was totally different because I was just, this was what I was exposed to all the time, right? Like Sean saying, like, like my clothes being thrown out the window, literally closet out the window.
Yeah. I would not have gone through some shit, man.
Yeah, like, it's crazy stories. Yeah.
And I remember walking from my house to Robinson Hall because it was the only safe haven that I had. Because I was too embarrassed to tell my parents what was happening.
Right.
So I was just like, and then at some point, so much stuff has happened and so many people got involved, like on the surface level, because I think people kind of knew that, like, things weren't right.
You weren't yourself.
Over at that household, right?
Yeah.
So, and it got to the point where I was embarrassed. I was like, oh my God, I can't keep telling people this is happening, right?
Right.
And then you just get in this scenario where you just feel stuck, like you can't get out. So you want to get out, but you don't know how. And you're like, well, maybe tomorrow will be better. Or maybe it's just because he drank too much or whatever it is. And it's like you run through a series of excuses, or a series of reasons why this is happening, whether that is the situation or the other person or yourself. And you just are like, it's incredible because I look back and I'm like, none of those reasons were suitable for anything that happened.
No,
there was absolutely no reason, right? But you just think that, yep, it's got to be one of these things. Tomorrow will be better. Tomorrow will be better.
Is that what you keep telling yourself that?
Tomorrow will be better. Yeah. Or like maybe he'll just get help, or like maybe he'll just, maybe he'll change, or maybe I should change. Maybe I should stop doing what I'm doing.
You weren't really doing anything wrong though. Like looking back, you know that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that the best way,
at least to my knowledge.
Yeah. You know what? I'm sure I was doing things wrong in the sense, I'm sure I was doing things to trigger situations because I don't know if I was trying to fight back or I was trying to defend myself or whatever it was. So I'm sure, like, as much as I like to say there's two sides to every story, and this one there isn't. There is two sides to every story.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like I definitely fought back, right?
Yeah,
so it's I can't really say I did nothing wrong.
But
I have a really tough time seeing you ever being the aggressor. Like you seem to me like if someone's attacking, you'd probably even be really, really nice in the beginning until you had enough. And then all of a sudden it's like...
You're right. And I also think too, there's probably things that I did that were probably in the real world were probably not wrong.
Right.
But in that world,
they were.
They were, right? So at some point, I think that I was probably doing things that like my ex deemed as wrong or frustrating, or I shouldn't be doing this, or that's inappropriate, even though in the outside world, it would have been totally fine.
Right. So when you use these terms in that world and in the outside world, did you find yourself having a hard time finding a difference between the two? Absolutely,
because my worlds totally crossed, right? At some point, when I'm telling you that I was exhausted, there's also a point of actual real exhaustion that happened. Right. So there was a point where I was actually so exhausted because I just wasn't sleeping. I was completely breaking down.
Yeah.
So there's this part of you that can't make real decisions because you are actually so tired. Your brain is not functioning. You're not eating properly. Right. You almost like just start to cave in and give in.
Wow. Right. And it can almost alter your perception of reality at times.
Totally.
Because you don't really know when you're sort of being programmed by this aggressive behavior. When you take that outside the door, that's going to obviously affect you in the real world.
Well, if you really think about what happens when you don't sleep.
Yeah.
Think about like if you have a bad night, you don't sleep or whatever, you haven't slept for the whole day, right? You just
you're
get busy.
Be affected. Sure.
You're pounding back Red Bulls. It doesn't matter.
No.
Nothing actually relieves that, right?
Right.
So when you have that as a consistency in your life, at some point you sort of become delusional a little bit because you're just so malnourished and you're so you have no sleep.
It sounds horrible.
Yeah,
I'm so sorry you had to go through that.
You know what? people always tell me that, and I never ever want people to apologize for it. There's this part of me that will tell you that, you know, like I absolutely hate my ex, and there's this part of me that will tell you that there's so many things that happened in my life because of him that were totally life-changing and brought me to the point where I am today.
That's exactly what I was
that
gonna ask
sometimes I'm like, kind of just want to be like, thanks for treating me like shit for 2 years.
So then, yeah, it's because it made you that much stronger now?
Yeah,
or?
Totally. I think that there's, you know, I remember the day that I left.
Tell me what that was like and how you decided on that day it was time.
I will tell you that it wasn't as calculated as I really want you to. You want to
Right.
hear, right? Like I want to tell you that there was this great epiphany.
There's no aha moment.
There was an aha moment, but
Okay.
it wasn't as like distinct as I wish I would have been.
Okay.
But I can tell you that there's, you know, when somebody understands their value, I feel like they're unstoppable.
Right.
And I think that there was this point in my life where there was this moment of clarity.
Right.
Where I was just like, this is not my life.
Right.
Like, this is not my life, and I can do way more than whatever I'm doing right now.
Sure.
And it literally came out of a serving shift, which is the most bizarre thing ever. But I just served on a day that I would have never served. We opened on a Sunday. We never open on Sundays. Did my shift. It wasn't really that busy. Went downstairs, cashed out, talking to my best friend Dan and Kendra, and we're just like talking. And I think we were talking about my relationship.
Right.
And then
both awesome people, by the way.
Oh, amazing people.
Absolutely.
Just amazing people.
Yeah.
So we were talking about it, and I don't even remember the conversation. But I drove home, and it's sometimes, you know, when people are like, things are just meant to be.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So
absolutely.
yeah. So it was funny because this was the one time that I left. So we closed early. I left, and apparently my ex saw my car drive by Jack Astor's downtown.
Right.
And I had a very distinct car then. Like, I was probably one of 3 people in the city that had my car.
Okay.
So, like, you knew it was me.
Okay.
Right?
What kind of car was that? I'm trying to think if I
It was
remember.
that little red Volvo C30 that I had.
Okay.
And at the time, like,
remember.
nobody had them.
Right.
Right? So, and no one really had red ones.
Okay.
So he said he saw me drive by, and his personality type would be like, wrap up whatever I'm doing, also going home. Because I didn't tell him I was going home.
Right.
But he didn't.
Right.
Which was very weird. He just stayed at Jack Astor's, continued drinking with his buddy.
Really?
I went home, and I literally just took all of my personal belongings that were the most important to me and just jammed them in my car.
Wow.
And like, I have a lot of clothes. So like, I don't think I've ever actually done anything so big in such little time.
Drastic.
But I was
Yeah.
so motivated to get out.
Right. Just because you felt like you had a window? Is that what it was?
I think
or?
it's because I felt like I had a window, but I also feel like I had this realization that this had to end.
Right.
That this was, if he was to become a better person, I was not the person that was going to make him better.
Right.
Like, I was just not fit for that position.
Sure.
Whoever that person is, like, that's
More power to
awesome.
him.
More power
Anybody.
to them. You're right.
That's
But it wasn't me.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Right.
it was the decision that it was almost a decision that was selfish, but also a decision that I think at the time I was like, no, I think we both need this. Like,
Yeah.
I need this, but he needs this. Like, I can't be that person
I don't
in his
think
life.
anyone would argue that that's a selfish decision by any means. I think that's like self-preservation.
Well,
I find
Yeah.
that the women we've talked to, a lot of them are more, they're more apathetic in the sense where they always seem the other side of it.
Like
if they're
his problems and stuff?
They're always putting a lot of their problems further ahead than they should.
I think
notice.
there's part of you though that has to understand why things are happening, right? And there's part of you that just says, okay, if I'm, you know, like, I know a ton of people, and I don't really think that I'm overly hated. Do you know what I mean?
No,
like
not at all.
right?
Not at all.
Like I think I have a lot. Like, I have a lot of friends. I know a lot of people in the city. So I'm like, okay,
Overly hated.
Well, you always try to help everyone.
Yeah.
When
I
I've been with
try,
you, you've tried to
but
do the best by everyone that you can.
I think there's this part of you that says, okay, so if I'm well liked by my surrounding peer group,
Right.
why is it that I cannot get along with this one person?
Because
Who's
you're probably
supposed-
liked by everybody.
Who's supposed to love you the most?
Right, who's supposed to love you the most.
Right.
So there's this part of you that says, okay, there has to be other reasons this is happening.
You can do that.
Oh
man.
wait, I'm gonna slow this.
You're gonna
down.
wait for her to
I'll
finish?
wait for her to finish.
Should I pause?
Yeah.
Okay.
Opa.
But yeah, there's this part of you that tries to understand the other person. And I think now, I don't want to say that it's me justifying the action,
Sure.
but there has to be a motivating factor. Like, people just don't just like break you down for absolutely no reason. Like it wasn't happening because he was bored.
Right.
Like it was happening because there was other reasons, whether they're on his end or my end or whatever they were.
Right.
It doesn't matter. It's like everything happens for a reason, right?
Yeah.
So there's part of you that, again, just tries to figure out, why did this happen? So it goes back to like, how did I get myself into this situation? Right. It's like these like questions that you may not be able to answer, but
sure. Yeah.
But yeah.
And you made that decision, you went and you didn't look back. So good for you. Because was there ever a part of you that wanted to give a second chance? Or were you done at that moment?
I think there was no part of me that seriously wanted to do it. I think there's always like when there's a breakup, there's always these parts that you're like, maybe this will work. But I think that
hypotheticals.
There was always these hypotheticals, absolutely, or these kind of little temptations. But I think on a very serious note, there was never ever an effort. Because we were just so toxic together.
Good for you. That's a hard thing to do.
It is a hard thing to do.
And the unfortunate thing is, I see it all the time.
Totally.
Too much.
All the time.
Way
totally.
Too much.
And I think that my situation is probably on a very low end of the spectrum in comparison to what other women are experiencing.
Yeah.
I think that women experience it more than we know because you spend a lot of time hiding it.
Right.
And I think my situation was exposed more so because I think a lot of things happened in front of a lot of other people.
Well, they happened at the bar.
They happened at the bar.
It was pretty public a lot of the time.
A lot of the times it was really public. And I think that's what made my situation unique. And I think that part of me is also there where I'm fine talking about it because it's like there is literally nothing to hide.
Right.
This like half the stuff didn't even happen behind closed doors.
Exactly.
So it's like if someone can learn from this or take something from it,
and that's what this is about. This is about. So, like, what would you tell someone that's currently in the exact same situation that you were going through? What would your words of advice be and empowerment for them?
I think the biggest thing is that I think there's a lot of people that don't want to leave situations because they think that they think that their world will fall apart because they're now not with that person,
right?
Or they feel like they're dependent on that person.
But even if there is codependency, why do you want that? Like, I'm a firm believer that everybody needs to be an individual and complement the other person, not depend on the other person.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right, right? But I think that when you think that there is a dependency there, it's really hard to move on,
and it's
right?
maybe hard to admit.
Yes, and there's another part of it too that I think what people don't really get is. Why is it not so easy to leave? Like, why is this, like, if it happens one time? I can
hear that in the microphone, sorry. Sorry, keep going. That was really funny.
Well, top me up while you're
doing it. Yeah, might as well.
Give
her some
more
all
the noise
out. What I was quickly
going
to say while I'm pouring is that I've been on the other side of the spectrum when I was in the mail-in situation.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And the reason why you don't want to leave.
What, you were in an abusive relationship from the female side?
More mentally on my side, me not being a good guy.
Oh.
From my past. Nothing extravagant, but just not being the best boyfriend I could be.
Yeah.
That's something we'll get into eventually.
Yeah.
But what it is you don't want to leave because change is scary.
Change is scary.
Totally
we are
scary.
creatures of habit.
Everything.
Absolutely.
And we're conditioned to be in a situation and you feel like...
Thank you, bartender.
No problem. Yeah. I poured that terribly,
potentially again.
Yeah,
I poured that terribly, by the way.
Yeah.
It's okay. Mike Robertson will work on training you.
There we go.
You will be his project.
Yeah, I want to be trained by Mike, too.
He's a great bartender. He's bartender of the year.
Yes, he is a great. Yes, he's won awards.
Yeah, I saw that on Facebook. That's awesome.
So the problem is sometimes when you're in a situation like that for the male side, it's a fear of lack of control. Because once you get in that situation, you have a little bit of control. Now, you may not be controlling the other person,
right?
But you're controlling your own situation.
Right.
And when you leave that person, you don't have control of what happens to you.
Right.
You don't know who you're going to be with. You don't know. They don't know those things. It's fun to start out fresh with someone new.
Yeah.
It's always exciting.
Yeah.
But then you may not like something about the next person you're with.
Right.
That the other person doesn't have. And it's a fear of losing out on things that you really cherish at that time.
Right.
Regardless if you're in a toxic situation or not, there are things that you enjoy and cherish.
Right.
Yeah, not every moment is that, right?
No,
like not every
course,
like you do have good moments, right?
So
it's just
there's things that you probably didn't want to lose.
The good moments have to severely outweigh the bad moments. That's how it should be in a healthy relationship.
Absolutely. Or the bad moments need to at least be productive. Like when you're having an argument or whatever, disagreement, you're learning a lesson or you're learning more about the other person and then you're moving past it. Exactly. And when you're in a situation where you're not, it's just repetitive. It's you're just kind of cycling.
Right.
But there is a point where I think there's part of this situation that's not addressed is the fact that it's hard for women to get out when they're kind of not mentally stuck or emotionally stuck, but literally physically stuck.
Right.
So there's
like
this
keeping tabs on you and
yeah,
shit
like keeping
that.
tabs on you, or you know, I will do this if you do that, or if you leave, then you know I'm gonna come after you, or whatever, or there's repercussions, right? Yes. So there's like this fear that's instilled, right? Or the fact that, you know, you don't want them to hurt themselves because you don't, if you leave. You
was
know
that
what I mean?
ever a threat? Like, was there ever a threat of like I'm gonna kill myself or?
Absolutely, that was like a
huge
part of it.
Think?
Yeah, that was a huge part of it.
You know how many women have come on the show and said similar stories to that, and that's part of the reason we call it sex and suicide, is we're trying to figure out what actually we obviously don't want anyone to die by suicide. We don't want anyone to think that.
Or
we're
die
trying
by sex.
Yeah, that's a better way to go, I find.
Yeah, if there's one, yeah,
I would want to go that way, but that's just me.
Myself included.
Yeah, exactly.
Depends if you're in prison or not.
That a girl. And but
you missed what I said.
I mean, just going down that road. We don't want, we were trying to break stigma, but we also want to separate the people that are actually just looking for attention and the people that are severely mentally, you know, capable of doing it.
Absolutely. And those are two different, very, very different
they
things,
are very
right?
different things.
There is a whole group of people that can utilize that to their advantage to control a situation versus people who are actually in that state, right, where they do not value or appreciate themselves, or feel that they're a burden to the rest of their peer group or society, depending on how big it is, right? So there is, but the thing is that it's very difficult to distinguish those two, right? And as somebody who is not in that situation, you don't know. It's very, I think it's kind of like, how do you judge that? How do you really judge that? You know, like at what point, you know, does a doctor become an expert at deciding those two things or determining those two things? Right. You know what I mean? Like it's very, very difficult because you don't really know. And you don't really know if the people that are in that, you know, what you deem as attention or controlling manipulation are also still part of that group, but just maybe on a lesser level. Right. Just because it's such a bizarre way to control somebody, right? Yeah. Because you are now putting yourself in jeopardy to control another person.
It's fucked up.
It is fucked up.
It's really
totally fucked up.
Oh man. So like I'm still kind of in shock a little bit because I can never, like, having lost a best buddy to suicide. Yep. I've heard this time and time again, how people have threatened to take their own life based on the fact that a relationship could end. Yes. And it makes like I don't know what to feel about it. It's like, it kind of makes it is confusing. It makes my heart, like, I'm sad for the person that could even say something like that. Because what a way to make someone else feel guilty as fucking hell. Like,
when you don't want to lose someone, you'll do anything to keep them, even if it's against their own will.
But the thing is if you truly love someone, then you want them to be happy regardless of whether or not they're with you.
The problem is people confuse themselves with obsession and infatuation with love.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's a bigger and bigger problem now in relationships.
Especially with social media, and think that they need this person for their social status.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and people always wanting to, like, I've had conversations recently about people like, why don't you post us on Facebook more? Why aren't we on your Instagram account more? Like, who gives a shit? If you're in the fucking moment with someone, and they're showing you're with that person, what does it matter if you are on
their social
everyone else's phone or not?
Yeah.
Like, to me, that's a huge red flag and a big insecurity, and I can't. I
fucking hate it. Yeah.
It makes me like mad.
I think that social media, like, sorry.
Pull your chip just a bit.
Oh, sorry. I told you.
It's always fun.
Voice, let's hear it.
I know.
Brandon has the most, like,
he's very technical.
He is, but this is where OCD and ADHD. Yeah, you're not OCD. You're ADHD. No, okay, ADHD, because he'll notice little things and he'll quickly correct them. I've noticed that.
Honestly, it's only because I'm short.
I try to take my. It's a disorder. Actually, my mic just went weird on me. It's a disorder that I try to take the advantages of using from.
Right.
I have no attention span whatsoever. So sometimes I'm like,
you will. You just need to work on it.
But we already talked about this. I have the ability. This is a weird subject change. I'm sorry, guys, but I have the ability to hyperfocus. So if I want to learn something, I'm a savant when it comes to retaining anything.
I would love to be like.
He's firsthand witness of it.
His UFC knowledge is off the charts.
I would love
I don't even care to know it. I just know
my God, I would love to be in that situation where I could hyper focus on something. Oh my God, because if you really think about in a day how many things happen to you if you're a very busy person, and if you can have that moment in time where you could just really focus on this and just ignore everything else, it's incredible.
You can't choose it. It has to be something you're very passionate about and love. I can't choose what I want. So here's the thing: if I'm interested in something and I read a book, and I will retain everything. Wow. But if it's something simple, very simple and very mundane, I can read it a paragraph and I'm like, I don't care.
Is this why you quit on me? I never made you love bartending.
No.
We're gonna get deep right now.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
I already told you the reason.
Yeah.
I know.
It's because everybody smells. No, I was kidding.
Do you find that you get bored more quickly?
Absolutely.
Because I would think that's one of the reasons is you just probably I'm bored of this job now. And
Well, not just that. Sometimes you're not challenged mentally.
right.
And if you are challenged mentally, it's not in the way that you excel at.
Sure.
So like, for instance, like you asked me if I get bored easily. I'm always doing something because I don't like my own company because I can always do something else. So if I'm bored, I'm never just sitting there and being, so that's why I want to work on meditating with you.
Yeah.
So I learn how to be in the moment because I don't like being in the moment because I'm always wanting to do something different.
Well, that's anxiety too, by the way.
I don't really get anxiety. I don't.
But if you're always looking, if being in the moment makes you uncomfortable,
Yeah.
and you can't just sort of focus on breathing and look around and just be still, that's you're anxious.
Well, I have ADHD.
Then I totally have anxiety.
Yeah,
then.
yeah.
Based on that definition, I 100%
Sure.
have anxiety.
Well, I mean,
always need to be doing something.
And it's not necessarily that it's either one. It isn't either one of your faults. It's the way that society programs us to have this drive, and it's based on consumerism. Make money so you can spend it. To make money so that
Yes.
the world can turn.
Our attention
right?
span is terrible, especially in the music industry and movies. That if we're not entertained by the first 5 seconds, we're out.
Well, look at what they have on social media now. They have 3-second views. You get credit for a view that if someone
3
tunes in
seconds.
for 3 seconds.
Remember Vines? 7 seconds.
Yeah.
That's all you had.
And this is the thing: is our attention span as a race is actually less than a goldfish at this point in time.
Wow, that's
So
incredible.
yeah, so for us to be going,
I love them.
I know.
They're so cute.
This is the thing though, is that a lot of people have said to me, they say, your podcast too long, and I said, no, it's not. You just need to work on
focus
patience.
for an hour.
The
Yeah.
problem
And-
is
and when
everyone needs to work on the patience.
Everyone needs to work on the patience, but that's what this is for. I don't give a fuck if people tune in and tune out. Hopefully you got what you needed. Piss off, or come back. We love you.
But
as you say.
everything
Not all
is
our
so
guests.
instantaneous.
Not all our guests. We love you. But like, if you're bored, then
Stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it, Sean.
If you get bored, you can capably go somewhere else. I listen. I mean, if you look at Howard Stern, king of media, we'll say, I listen to his station for a bit. Sometimes I'll turn it right off.
I couldn't get into it.
No.
No, he annoyed me.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah, he's
Wow.
he's amazing interviews.
Yeah.
But a lot of his comedy was very basic and fart humor. Very very like
Well, his
I love that term,
His
fart
demographic isn't meant to be like.
very very high intelligent people.
Well, you said it, not me. But anyway.
I don't care.
You're on the
That's,
hook, man.
that's
Yeah.
how I feel. And it's not to really insult anybody.
No.
But I'd much rather listen to a Joe Rogan podcast because he actually has people on that blow my fucking mind.
Sure. Well, you
Yeah,
have
but
a lot
sometimes
more in
people
common.
light
Yeah.
listening, right? They don't
Yeah.
necessarily want to get deep and
Right.
really into
But
life.
you don't have
know?
to get deep to learn.
No,
No.
that's true. I agree with that.
Right?
Yeah, you're absolutely
If
right.
I'm cleaning my place, I'll put a podcast on about biophysics.
Yeah.
That I don't know anything about. Or
Sure.
or Neil deGrasse Tyson talking about quantum physics.
Yeah.
And I will retain some of the things that I hear.
Quantum physics is awesome.
Unbelievable.
Love it.
I
Yeah,
can't-
it's mind blowing.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyways, back to
ADHD. But this is why a podcast is sometimes, and that's the one thing I do enjoy about podcasts is because we can have a subject, and
Yeah.
you're open to fucking change it and
Oh,
take it
yeah.
another direction.
Well, it's a natural conversation, and
That's how it goes.
these days, like I've sat down there, and I think I listened to you and Vedran last week after a podcast, and we'd start on something, and I'd be ready to finish, but you guys already had another conversation going, and I'm like, all right, we're going on to the next one.
That's what happens in life, especially with podcasts.
It is life. It's people at the bar. It's everywhere. I mean, it's not just you, but this is between. The reason I set this up is so that I can have meaningful, deep conversations with
Yeah.
people that I've cared about in my life, and we can just reconnect without the distraction of cell phones.
and
Or me.
You are a distraction, but you're an interesting one.
Thank
you are.
well, I gotta keep things, you can't always have, you gotta have things lighted. You gotta, like the guest laughing is always a good thing.
100%. Yeah.
I just love the fact that there's this great conversation happening in these podcasts, and it's
Yeah.
like not everybody has a minute to think about what they're saying. Like it's actually a real conversation.
Organic.
It is.
You know,
Yeah.
like
that's why I started it, right?
That's what I
Mine,
find
man.
now.
That's
I
how you
just
did his.
find as generations get younger and younger, because I'm always working with people younger and younger. I'm
Right.
like, okay, you don't have time to think about this.
Yeah.
You just have to do things.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like we
Yeah.
just, because that's how it is in front of your phone, right? You're just
Right.
you have all this time to be like, okay, he said this, so I'm going to say. No. Okay, this one's good, right?
Yeah,
like it's
sure.
like no.
Can you imagine we
Yeah.
did that in person?
Oh my god.
Just you ask them a question and just stand there and just like wait for it. Give me a sec.
And they
Hold
start,
on.
and then
Just give me a sec.
and then you can
Yeah.
see them like backspace.
Yeah, backspace.
in their
Well, like,
mind.
you ask them a question, it takes them 30 seconds to answer. Just like, just give me a second.
Yeah.
Just wait. Okay. This is why. You're like, what the fuck just happened?
It's just like there's no quick on your feet
fuck?
anymore.
No, I
You
know.
what I mean?
Exactly.
Like,
You don't need to be. You have the time to, and it's not helping matters that like they have on Tinder and all these dating apps sort of ways that you need to grab people's attention by
You swipe. You fucking swipe nowadays. You don't even have to talk to people. You just swipe yes or no.
But then
I've never been on Tinder.
No,
I don't even know what the app looks like.
I think it's just a little piece of fire. I think is that
you swipe left and right.
I appreciate traditional dating methods.
I do too.
You think I'm cute? Come talk to me. Maybe I'll give you my number.
Sure, and
Dude, absolutely. That's good. That's
I kind of like
old
that.
fashioned, and that's what it should be nowadays. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I was gonna ask you based off interviewing people, like since you've done the podcast, do you find that your day-to-day interactions with people have changed?
Not necessarily. I mean, this is where I find that I can have the deepest, more meaningful conversations because there's something about talking into the microphone, having the headphones on, and knowing that there's no distractions and we're recording. People are, everyone that I've had on here has been very genuine. At least I see it as being genuine.
Yeah, I agree.
But without that distraction, like in everyday life, even though I might be into the conversation, I can't stop someone from pulling out their phone and interrupting the talk that we're having, however deep I might be feeling about it. It's clearly, if that happens, I'm not interesting enough, and that's fine. We'll end the conversation. So...
I pull my phone out all the time when I have it on me, and not even with that thought process in my head.
Right. Well,
I'm completely interested in what you're saying, but it's just...
You could be, but the thing is that I know after all the keep in mind, I haven't had a drink in a long time, right? It's been over a year and a half. It's been a year and what month are we? Year and 8 months.
18 months, buddy.
Were you worried he was going to take it?
What?
Were you worried he was going to take
it? No.
He just wanted to point out the fact that
it was just too close. It was too close. Okay.
Yeah. But during that time, I read a lot. I learned as much as I possibly could.
You're a different person.
I think so. I think I totally am. And I honestly, I credit to the fact that I had to find other things to fill my time with other than drinking and socializing.
Yeah.
But during that period, for me, I realized that there is no such thing as multitasking. People, if you think you can multitask, you're full of shit. It's not possible for a human to do two things at once.
No.
You can try, but you're really bouncing back really quickly between the two, which isn't helping your attention span at all.
Yes, I agree with you. Yes and no.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Yes and no.
Okay.
Like someone singing and playing guitar at the same time.
Yeah, but that's totally different. That's using a creative side of your brain.
It's subconscious.
Right? Yeah.
We're now exposed now, and we're conditioned to do things without even subconsciously. That's how fucking often we're on our phone and doing social media that we're doing something on our social media while having a conversation. That's how bad it's getting. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but you're getting to the point where.
But I think when you're on social media while you're having a conversation, you're not actually you're not engaged in the conversation.
No, you might
there's absolutely no engagement. You're in and out all the time.
You are in and out.
It takes a different part of your brain to be able to play the guitar and sing at the same time.
I still can't sing and play the guitar at the same time.
It takes a different part of your brain. And what we're conditioning to is now we're being able to do things while paying attention, not successfully, but still on a normal level where we'd be able to do these things and multitask with a different part of our brain where we're not ever had to before. Now,
that's interesting.
We yet to see, but I don't agree with it socially. But it's happening.
I think that there's just right now we've had these talks before about social media.
I love these talks. They're the best talks we have.
Yeah, and I think that the social media side of things, we're trying to use it, and I'll tell you this. He
pointed. He never points.
It got brought to my attention and I'll give her a shout out by Kate, my dance teacher. I'm doing this for those of you that don't know. I'm doing dancing.
Please plug.
Okay,
you got attention, please.
Easter Sales and Fred Astaire Dance Studios.
Mike Schultz, the owner. Shout out.
There you go. And Kate is the one. Kate Whippy is her name, and she's training. I think it's Whippy. I apologize if I messed that up. But she's teaching. She's my dance. I'm doing Dancing with the Stars, but for London.
That's cool.
Now,
that's very cool.
What style are you learning?
I am learning the cha-cha and the waltz are my dances.
Awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Did you get to pick your style?
No, she picked it for me, and she totally crushed it. Michael Jackson. I'm doing Billie Jean, cha-cha to Billie Jean. And
when is your debut?
When is it?
Yeah.
In September. You'll know. I'll
I just need to prepare myself for this. I need to be available.
Yeah, it's a contest.
Your dance partner is going to be wearing a GoPro. I guarantee you that.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, she will be now.
Okay. And then the second dance, the waltz, is James Bond. What the hell is it? What movie? I don't know. Name some of the theme songs.
I can give you every one of them.
It was one of the more recent ones.
Goldeneye?
Not Goldeneye. More recent than that.
You Know My Name?
No.
Your James Bond knowledge is incredible.
Is it? I retain everything.
I can't remember, but is it
Skyfall?
Skyfall.
Boom.
Oh no, it's not. I don't think.
Adele?
Maybe. Fuck. We haven't really gone over that one. Let me get back to you.
Is it piano?
I don't know. I haven't even really heard it yet. We've been more focusing on the cha-cha than Michael Jackson.
Okay.
But anyways, back to the original point. Kate, she sat me down and she's like, I love your podcast because there's this, online, there's this sort of highlight reel. And I said, yeah, it's a highlight reel of everybody. And she said, but you're like this authentic siege surfacing against the bullshit. I was
It's
like,
good.
yeah.
Is that
Like,
Ooh.
yeah, I'm like,
Fuck yeah.
That's
authentic
nice.
siege. I'm like, I fucking love that.
Wow.
Like we're
That's
waging
good.
war on the
this
bullshit.
Yeah, it's pretty
And
cool.
being
Oh,
like,
I like
call
that.
out the fucking nonsense, right?
Yeah,
like we
totally.
all have mornings we don't want to get out of bed.
Like we're wolves,
we
we're
all
sheep.
have, yeah, we all exactly wolves.
High five.
Speaking of which, we're going to be starting a second podcast, which is we're going to be equal hosts of the show.
Yeah.
I like that.
And it's going to be
This is his show right now. I just kind of add a little shit.
You're adding is great.
Thank you.
There's certain things that you're not gonna. I mean, I've talked to him about certain topics that I will get into. He knows you. He knows a lot of the guests that come on. But there isn't anyone between the two of us we don't know in the city.
So far, actually,
Yeah.
we're surprised with this.
Yeah, but
You two are surprised. The two of you don't
Yeah.
know
But every guest he's had
somebody.
on, we've just, I mean, like, I
Yeah.
know them, like,
Yeah.
on a first name basis, like he said, Voula, I'm like, yeah, I know, I'll see her, I'll say hi.
sure, yeah, absolutely.
It's not like a problem of me ever being a part of the podcast because I already know the guest.
Yeah. But if I know there was if I knew there was a story coming on of someone that came on the show and they wanted to talk about a time when they had a suicide attempt or something like that,
Right.
They don't know me.
that might be
Yeah.
something that he might not want to be a part of, and that's
Yeah.
why I ask you: is it okay if he
Oh, yeah,
partakes?
totally.
Right.
For sure,
So, so that being said, let's go back into that sort of
You
realm.
were actually about to, you didn't finish what you're saying.
About what?
Well, the wolf.
About the wolf.
The-
Do you want me to? I was
Should
going to
we
ask you.
do it?
Do
Should
you
we
want me
do
to
it
do that
yet?
here? Okay, let's do it. Let's do another day.
Yeah, it's a good
let's
time.
reveal it.
Let's do
Maybe
the intro and then we'll-
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
We've got some big things coming.
I
but
just thought you weren't done. I thought you were headed that way.
I was, but I wanted to check with you.
Fair enough. That's
Okay.
good. That's good.
So, anyways, we
This
do have a
works.
guest
This
here.
works.
Let's focus on the
hi,
guest.
Voula.
I love
So-
the banter between the two.
Thank
of
you.
It's
We need
amazing.
sometimes it's
Yeah.
filler, right?
Amazing.
So let's get back to the mindset. I want to talk to you about what kind of mindset you and sort of what you mentally went through when you were rebuilding after this. Would you say this was the toughest relationship you've ever been through?
Totally.
By far.
100%.
And was that one of the worst places you've been in your life?
100%.
Okay. And
Yeah.
how you've never ever had the thought of suicide or anything like that, have you?
No.
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 It's
I just my brain isn't in that capacity.
Right,
And I
right.
think that there was I think
It's a good way to put
as
it.
stuck as I got, I knew that there was always going to be a way out, or
Right.
there was going to be a way to fix things, and I still had the support of the people around me, and
Right.
regardless of whatever that was, at whatever degree that support was, I just
Right.
knew that there were people around me that loved me.
Sure.
Is it fair to say you loved life, you just didn't like the way yours was going?
Yeah.
Sure.
And
There
you
go.
know what? When you come from a situation where things are really great, and you're like in this temporary moment where things are not great, you can go. Okay. I got to get back to this. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? You're
Yeah.
like, okay, this is not my life. You know.
Right.
So suicide was the furthest thing away you wanted. You
I
wanted your
never
normal
even
life.
Yeah.
I never even thought of it.
Yeah.
I
But
just
I'm
knew
just
I
the
could
reason
get
I
out.
ask is because he's obviously put that out there, right? Like the
Yeah.
suicide was a topic that was brought up, and I
Yeah.
was like, sometimes if people beat you down enough, you can think like, am I contributing to this planet? Would the world be better without me? But the world would never be better without you, and I'm glad you never
Thanks.
thought that. But people do, and I've thought it before. I mean, when
So
I've been,
have I.
So
Yeah.
I mean, especially at a younger age, and it's like, no one's obviously, especially when the media is beating you up, and you're like,
Yeah.
holy shit, am I really that big of a piece of shit? And sometimes you have to take a look at yourself and make some changes, and then you start to enjoy life again. But
Wow.
yeah,
Someone we'll get into another time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I never really had those feelings because I think I was surrounded by a lot of people that just were really reminded me that this is probably not really my fault.
Right.
So I think when
Absolutely.
you have a really good support group, you just tend not to go down that road.
Good.
You know?
It
Good.
seems to notice you had love everywhere else but where it should have been.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow.
That's exactly it. That's
Yeah.
totally it.
Yeah.
Like my parents are amazing. I have everyone says that their friends are amazing, but
Yeah.
I have incredible friends. And I think
Right.
I have incredible friends because I had a lot of friends that knew what was happening, knew that they really couldn't do anything, but tried
Yeah.
to be supportive as best as they could. Just knowing because me deciding to leave was my own personal decision. There
It has
was
to
no
be.
one. Yeah, it has to be. No one
Yeah.
can force you out of this situation. You have
No.
to mentally say, "I'm done."
Yeah.
And I think that it's incredible that I am still friends with these people, and they tolerated kind
Everything.
of everything
They
that
loved
was
you.
happening
They loved
around
you.
me, right? Because
Yeah.
they tolerated it to the extent of, like outbursts
Yeah.
of things that were happening
Yeah.
in front of everybody, and they were like, "Oh shit, what do we do?"
Exactly. Yeah.
Or like people coming to our house to try and resolve issues or whatever, right? Like, I mean, there's been tons of times where people had to come over and just kind of.
Quick question for you now.
Yeah.
Since you had people always being mediators in your life, do you find that's where you got your skill set to be a mediator?
I don't know that I've ever actually thought about that. But probably. I think that there's
helped.
It probably helped. And I think part of me also just feels like, well, because I've always kind of, or since this has happened, I've looked to two sides of every story. Maybe that's perhaps where I'm kind of get my mediation skills. But I've never really thought about it consciously.
The second part to that is that you're obviously very successful. You're driven. You're doing well for yourself.
Thanks.
That's one of the reasons I wanted to have you here, because you've always been that way, even in the toughest of times.
Okay, so that actually answers my question.
Yeah,
because I want to know that you think that how successful you are and how driven you are, the girl that was in that relationship would have done the same thing you're doing now, or be able to do it.
Okay, if I was still in that situation today,
but would you be able to be as strong as you are? And
no.
See, there you go. Yeah,
no,
so
totally not. I don't think that I think I would have collapsed at some point. I think I would have gone into a full shutdown mode.
Yeah.
I don't think that I could have actually continued on mentally and emotionally.
And just in the fatigue. You said your body
and physically.
Physically.
I don't think I could have actually made it through. But I think that getting out of that situation, I think the biggest thing that I wanted to accomplish was genuine independence as I define it. So what did I kind of saw myself and I'm like, what are things that I want to accomplish and what are things that I want to accomplish myself?
Right.
And starting to just go to those goals, there's this. And while this was all happening, I was actually working at my at the bar, but I was also working at my brokerage.
Right.
So, which is part of it.
She's taking on a lot.
So part of this is like everybody at the bar. Part of me kind of was like, okay, I see that they're seeing this. This is embarrassing, but a lot of these people are my friends. But you can't go just to work at your regular office job and just
have someone show up,
talk about this stuff or have people know about this stuff. This is embarrassing. I work with 3 other guys, right? So not saying that they're insensitive to it, but they're just this is not a conversation that I'm having with them. Right.
Yeah, sure.
Although they all have daughters, ironically. So it would be probably a bizarre conversation to have with them. But so this is not stuff you're taking to work with you. You know what I mean? I don't work with a bunch of women and you can kind of talk about
Did you have a hard time leaving your home life away from your work life?
No, because it was a complete escape. Because everything was great at work. You know what I mean?
I don't know that.
I would go to work and I'm working with these people that are so amazing and they're so nice and everything is and they're motivating and they want to do these things and build their business and build this team and do all this stuff, and all of a sudden it was just you almost forgot about everything that was happening at home because you're back into this motivating, exciting, happy world.
That's
right?
Interesting.
So it was almost I don't want to say I didn't want to go home, but I didn't want to go home, right? Yeah. Because everything was so good.
Did your stomach drop with that moment when you're like, fuck, I gotta go home now? Was it?
I know that feeling. I know that feeling. Fuck.
Oh yeah, totally. Stomach dropping and I think my stomach would drop when I would see him walk in the bar.
Would you describe that as being anxiety? I would.
Oh, totally. And the thing is, the minute that he would walk into the bar was the minute that I was like, fuck.
My night's different.
Shit's gonna go down. I 100% knew it was gonna go down.
I can't imagine what that was like to live with.
Sometimes I can't even imagine what it was like to live with. You know what I mean? I just so much shit happened that it was just it was fucked. I can't even you can't make this shit up. You know what I mean? That's the part that's so fucked up about it is you can't make this shit up.
It gets me upset thinking about it.
I know.
You're one of the sweetest people I've ever met.
Thanks.
I've never. The only time I've ever seen her mad.
You know what the worst part about it is, and this I think will sound kind of screwed up in a way.
Say it, please.
But I think that there's part of me that I'm just how did I get to a point where I actually made this person so upset with me? Regardless of the fact that it doesn't. No, I know, but it doesn't matter whether it was me or them or whatever. I just actually genuinely made somebody so upset. You know what I mean? To the point where they were doing these things. And I'm I don't feel it's not that I feel bad in the sense that I feel bad that it's my fault, but I'm how did I how did I do this to somebody on a regular basis that they actually felt so shitty that these things came out of it. You know what I mean? You're oh wow, I'm an evil person.
Well, the thing is you're putting on yourself again. We're in a situation how could this person not see the good in me?
Right.
And appreciate how it's them.
Right.
It was him. It was him not noticing the good things.
But I think it takes a lot for somebody to really realize where their faults are.
And he obviously didn't.
Fair, which is totally fair. But I think it takes a lot for people to realize where their faults are, right?
Ego is a huge killer.
And I think that's a big part of me in the sense of I look at if I see something going wrong, the first thing I think about is like, okay, so what is my involvement in this?
Right. And that's not a bad, that's a great way.
And it's not, I'm not blaming myself, but I'm going to take responsibility for the parts of,
That's very hard to do.
It is hard to do. Yeah. So if I have, but so
that's also being a grown up.
It is,
How many grown-ups are in stupid situations?
Yeah,
90% of us.
Absolutely, but I think that's like a sign of maturity, and what most grown-ups used to do. Maybe not today, but back in the day. How am I responsible here? What can I do to improve this?
You're absolutely right, and I think taking responsibility for yourself is something that, unfortunately, our society has completely. Is slowly ridding of, right?
Absolutely. You did this. You did that.
Yeah,
you know. Not even that. They go into social media and they boast themselves on Instagram because if I'm not a good person at home, at least I'll be a good person on Instagram. I'm telling you that actually
I believe
happens.
that. I believe that.
But
an escape.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, like people can talk about all these like wonderful hunky-dory things that they're like doing, you know what I mean? But they're not actually practicing them in life. It's not really practicing what you preach, right?
No.
But I think that, self-responsibility is this thing that is slowly leaving our society, and it's quite frankly, in my opinion, disgusting.
It is disgusting. I
fucking agree. That's a great way to put it.
It's disgusting, you know what I mean? Because I just don't think anyone can ever improve themselves if they don't sit there and self-reflect and say, okay, and it's not blaming yourself. It's just like, okay, where did this go wrong? How can I make this better? Because it's not going to make itself better, right? So if I have somebody who comes to the bar, for example, and I train them to bartend and it doesn't work out, so I always reflect back and I'm like, okay, not you, but I always reflect back. And I'm like,
self-awareness right there. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But I always reflect back to think, okay, did I not train them enough? Did I not invest enough time? Maybe it's maybe it's the way that I'm training them. Do I need to look at things differently? Like, you know what I mean? And maybe at the end, at that thought process, I'm like, no, I don't. Like maybe it just wasn't meant to be.
Yeah.
Or this isn't their thing, right? It's not meant for everybody. It doesn't matter what it is, right? But you know, there's this part of you that just needs to determine what your involvement in that situation was.
So you almost take a step back and give yourself like a self-evaluation.
It's hard though.
It's like, okay, could I, no, this is pretty much them. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And if it is, it is. But like, you know, I just.
In all fairness, in that relationship, I think looking back and knowing what I do now, I think there was a lot of mental illness you were dealing with.
100% there was.
Yeah, for sure.
It sounds like there definitely was.
100%. And I think there's a part of me that has sympathy to the whole situation because of that.
Oh.
Right.
You know, and I think maybe that's where kind of my soft points come out, is that I have a lot of sympathy to that because I think it is there. And whether or not it's been addressed since then, I hope it has, you know, like I don't know, unfortunately.
Sure, neither do I.
But I think there's absolutely no stigma. And I think the only thing that I would ever want of that whole situation is that if it is ever addressed, like I think that is like, that to me is an accomplishment.
Absolutely.
You know, if that whole relationship got somebody to a point where they can address a situation and make themselves a better person, like that, like literally, I would die happy knowing that. You know what I mean?
There would be a purpose.
There would be a purpose for everything.
And the amount, like I look back, and in fairness to the individual. Like at that point I was drinking to escape. I know it got increased over time.
I think there was a group of people.
A group of people. Let's be honest.
A group of people that were drinking to escape at that point in time.
I think there was a lot of underlying mental illness. Some of us have maybe admitted it. Some of us not so much. But at this moment in time, I think that that's okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I think there was a lot of drinking and a lot of partying that was happening during that particular time and era, you know, and it is what it is, right? And people go through those phases, but it was
as long as it's a phase and it stops, right? And you learn from it, I guess, at the end of the day. But I think you've obviously come out of this an incredible woman, as you were at the time you were in it as well.
Thank you.
But did any of it ever carry into your relationships past that? Like, I don't know how many there's been, but like
not that many.
Okay.
Actually, probably my current relationship is probably the only relationship that I've had that's been like serious or noteworthy.
Right. Since that point in time.
Yeah, and it's.
So how did it affect you? Were you afraid? Like, has it taken this long because you were afraid of letting someone in, or?
Probably, yeah. And I think part of me was I was on this wild chase of independence. Like I was like, and that I look at it now, and maybe everything that I was doing was not necessarily defining independence, but I think at the time it was just like I wanted to accomplish these things, you know, and like. You know, I wanted to buy my own house and, you know, I wanted a new car. And I know that they're materialistic, but I think the point of it was I don't need to be with another person to accomplish these things. I can do this on my own. I can have a roof over my head by myself. I can have a vehicle by myself. I can have things by myself.
You can be a boss by yourself.
I was waiting for that.
And then, ironically, after that breakup, months later, that's when Gatsby happened.
Right.
Which was, right? So you can just imagine.
Did you go to Gatsby?
I went a few times. It wasn't
fucking mayhem.
Was it?
Yeah, it was total mayhem. And that totally was by accident.
Right.
There was absolutely, like, I was not really, like, Nick Spina was the driving force behind that whole idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and John, right? Like, Nick and John, like, they got their ideas together and they created this monster. Yeah. And it literally just fell on my lap because
it was bananas.
But the thing was that nobody really wanted to go over there because nobody knew what was going to happen with it because it, like, you know, we had a past of instability with Rouge and like whatever, and I was in this situation where I had this full-time job and I was just doing this on the side, so I was like, I'll go as long as if it doesn't work out, like, you guys will take me back at Robinson Hall, right? Yeah, like I had my full-time job, like I wasn't invested, and like, who knew that this thing was going to turn into this.
Can you
okay?
So for the
like wild,
what happened there?
So the viewers, I want everyone to understand.
I don't even know what didn't happen there.
Let me see if I can do a fair explanation of this place.
Okay.
So for all you that go to the bar and it's pretty tame. There's bouncers. I'm not talking ill will because I had a riot there. Yeah. So let's just say that. So it's not ill will. However, so it's kind of like, you know, when you have a classroom of kids.
Yeah.
And the teacher's there.
I've been in a classroom of kids. I don't know how it is to have them.
Let me describe this so you understand what I'm saying.
Okay.
So you have a classroom of the regular teachers there, and it's all the kids are behaved. Then you have a substitute teacher.
Yes.
And shit's a little bananas.
Yeah.
And then you have 2 hours where there's no teacher in the classroom. The 2 hours with no teacher in the classroom was
Gatsby.
Fucking absolute mayhem.
It was wild. It was wild.
I fell off the... I'm not going to get into it. I fell over a railing onto the bar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, was that the one at the back?
I fell off and landed on my hip.
Yeah, really? I think I've been up there before.
There was an air gun. Remember that air gun?
Yeah. So
I had a little bit to drink that night. Yeah.
Yeah, there was like...
Did that spray smoke?
The CO2.
I didn't expect it to be as powerful. It was, and then I fell pretty far too.
It was crazy, but I think the thing was there was everything happened right for that place.
Right.
It was just the right recipe.
For disaster.
For
happy disaster.
But it was like, it was the right timing. Like, it was totally the right timing. Like, people were going out hard.
Yeah.
Like, Gatsby the movie. It could really...
Yeah, Gatsby the movie had just come out and like kind of...
That was the problem, though, wasn't it? Didn't that create
God.
problems for you guys with the name?
Oh, no. Well,
didn't you have to change the name based on all that crap?
Kind of, sort of. There's no, not really. There's more to that story,
okay,
but I think the big thing was that when there was like the split, the divorce of John and Nick.
Yes.
John just needed his own entity, his own bar, his own brand, and it was like that's what we went with, and then it became Belfort. You know what I mean? I think that's in essence what it is. I'm sure John's gonna be like, why did you say that?
Completely different dynamic though.
Totally.
I've been to Belfort. It's not the same.
You know what? I think that I honestly will tell you. I think there's just the years of Gatsby. I think it was just people were on fire. They were going out all the time. Like, this was the days when like people were lining up at 10:30. I remember lining up at 10:30. Who lines up at 10:30? Yeah. I don't even know.
Students.
Does that happen anymore? Yeah, but this was during the summer too, was it not?
Summers were like okay. Our first summer was
bonkers.
Was pretty good, but we couldn't do the whole place.
So most of it was during the school year that it got
my God, yeah.
Bananas.
But it was just, I remember at some point on a Halloween, standing up on a cinder block, like this, or I don't even know if it's a cinder block. It's more like a concrete massive block, like 3 or 4 feet off the ground, literally yelling at people to try and control traffic because our parking lot had like probably 250 people in it.
Really?
But the bar, like... Our manager messages me, like our other manager messaged me. He's like, I'm not really sure what you're doing out there, but the bar is dangerously full. And I'm like,
it was
I can't count.
Isn't there a YouTube video of a bouncer working at Gatsby? We should definitely clip that underneath the story so people have an idea what we're talking about.
Yeah, he put a camera in his jacket.
And you can find a YouTube GoPro video of a bouncer talking to students. And you have an idea of what the staff was dealing with. Because it wasn't the staff's fault.
Right.
All of them. But there's a YouTube video that we will click underneath. And
we'll only click that if that's going to be okay with you.
Yeah, totally. Do it. It has millions of views. Like,
really?
yeah, totally. Totally. It's very interesting though, right? Because it's so funny because I always love talking about work because I love what I do.
You're passionate about it.
I'm very passionate about it.
Yeah.
However, people always want to know about the bar, and I think it's because everyone can relate to the bar. I want to tell you everyone can relate about real estate, but not everyone relates about commercial real estate, even though I love talking about it, but whatever.
Sure.
But everybody can relate to the bar, and everybody always wants to know what's going on at the bar. And
Cool.
It's very, very cool. This video is cool just because it sheds light on the parts that people don't see, because I think at the end result, usually the people that work in the bar are always given kind of the negative impact or the negative tone, side. Right? But people don't realize like how much abuse gets to you take in a night, right? You know, like I can tell you that people have, you know, a couple weeks ago somebody told me I was shameful for wearing a crop top.
What?
I don't know.
I've done both. I bounced and bartended.
Yeah,
so
but it was this was all result of because their friend was not in dress code. Right,
okay.
like was not dressed properly for the bar, right? So we couldn't let them in.
So it wasn't just a fashion faux pas. Crop tops are in.
No. So, but they just took it upon themselves to make fun of my fashion, right?
They actually said shameful.
Yes, it is shameful. My stomach was exposed. That was shameful. Anyways, but the thing is, and that's not even bad, right? But
weird.
The thing is that
thing to say to someone.
It is weird.
It is a weird thing to say.
Shameful. Were they like wearing a cross?
No, they weren't.
Shameful's very weird.
I got a Jehovah's Witness flyer in my mailbox today, but that's a side note. Continue.
Interesting.
Continue. Unless you're watching.
When I live here, you wait till they come to the door. Come in.
Continue.
But yeah, so people don't realize like what happens leading up to that situation, right? And people always are so quick to be like, that bouncer's an asshole, or like that person's a dick, or I can't believe they did that. And it's like, I get it, but if you were ever put into that situation, it's like the same thing with officers, right? It's like people always are so quick to say that officer shouldn't have done that. And it's like, okay, just hold on a minute, because you don't know what happened probably 1 hour prior to this, right? While they're dealing with all of this stuff. And I'm like, I'd love to put you in this situation. I know people are like, well, you have training and this and that and the other thing, and that's great. But like, when you can have all the training in the world, but the execution in real life is like never the same. It's never the same.
What if we did that?
Did what?
Well, what if we got a GoPro?
Oh my God.
On one of your better bartenders or one of your longer serving bouncers.
Interesting.
And showed both and had that.
Showed what? Like,
we can go live. Well, we can't go live because it's the bar. We have to edit some stuff out. But what we can do is get one of the bartenders, like Mike Robinson, or yourself being the manager, to wear a GoPro for us.
Yeah, but people act different when they know there's the fact that it was hidden was.
Do you think that she's going to be acting different if she wears a GoPro? Absolutely.
No,
not.
I think the people that are at the bar.
Yeah, like if there was a hidden camera on me, because the thing is that I still have to execute my job the same way, right? Like I can't break rules. Yes. Yeah, I have to.
We can blur their faces out. It doesn't mean anything. We can blur people's faces out, but we get.
But you'd be surprised at the conversations that I have with people. It's very interesting.
A day in the life of Voula.
That's a great video.
we should do a day in the life of all our guests. That should be the next season. Like day in the life of this person.
Well, that's a great way to advertise your bar as well.
Yeah, that's also a very good point. But yeah, it's very interesting, the conversations that I have in a night.
I bet they are.
Yeah, and it's very interesting too to like, I'll also hear how people talk to me when they are clearly just like need something from me, versus people who are like very involved in my life, or like, you know me, or like want, you know what I mean? It's so interesting to see the dichotomy. Do you know what I mean?
Because
it's fascinating. I love it. I love it.
Well, you get to read. I mean, it's your job in real estate too, as a saleswoman, to be able to read people, so you can tell. You can kind of see, okay, this is your motivation, but I'm going to roll with it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
There's no alcohol involved either.
Yeah.
Oh, you can see the sober and drunk version of or sober and drunk version at the bar.
I feel like everyone needs to work in a bar. Like, just because there are so many things that happen in a bar that are applicable to life. You know what I mean? Like, if you can deal with
lessons.
Absolutely. Yeah. But if you can deal with like irate drunk people who are like just, bonkers, right? Like everything else is like so easy. You know what I mean? Like,
it's kind of true.
I think everyone should at least experience it. I think I'm gonna work on setting up a GoPro for one of you guys.
All right.
I'm
totally down to do it.
Just wait until you potentially bartend again, and we'll do it on ourselves.
We could potentially. Listen, I don't have a job yet, right?
Well, it doesn't matter. Even I'm sure Voula will let you guest bartend for a night.
You could totally guest bartend for a night.
And I have a GoPro at home.
There you go. We could both do it.
We both do it.
We'll put you on a bar together. There's a bar that's like specifically for
the side bar.
There's for two people.
Test it out. We could do something like that. That'd be fun.
We air it on here.
For sure.
We can't do it live, but we can air it next day.
Well, we could promote it on here and then get people to come and like, hey, if you heard this.
I'm going to get people to come and ask you to make them the most ridiculous drinks.
Oh, fuck.
That's okay. Do it.
I can't remember.
Listen, you're fucking waiting. I don't know how to make it. I don't read it up. Yeah.
Hold on. Let me just Google this. Yeah.
What do you want? I don't have that here.
Actually, as long as the ingredients are there, there's a YouTube video for everything.
We know who does that.
What do you want? I'm not going to name names. I know a bartender would be like, the fuck do you want? A what? Yeah, you're getting a beer.
You're not allowed to drink that.
Yeah. Not going to say who it is, but
he knows who he is.
He knows who he is. Yeah.
That's awesome.
But he's like, yeah, what? You have 2 beers. I'll talk to you later.
That's awesome. So you mentioned in a relationship now.
Yes.
And obviously, has there been any sort of issues that you've brought with you into that relationship, or is it a much healthier environment and everything's kind of?
It's totally a healthy environment. Good. I don't know that maybe consciously I brought issues in, but I know that I have like little weird quirks that I like. I'm kind of like, okay, you can't do that, or that kind of bugs me.
Because it reminds you of.
Because it kind of just reminds me of, or like there's certain like weird things. Yeah, it's unintentional. There's like certain weird things in my life that I can't. That can't happen. You know what I mean? Like they totally set me off.
Right.
They just make me feel weird or make me feel uncomfortable, or like I don't freak out, but yeah, they just bring back weird feelings. It's very bizarre. And it's weird that they're not major things. They're really bizarre little things.
Right.
Like no one can cut anything on a glass cutting board. Like
really?
Wow.
Yeah, just because it's like situational.
Really?
Yeah.
So it it's like
so weird. So I had to like throw out all my glass cutting boards. My mom actually has built-in glass cutting boards, and she's not allowed to use them.
Really?
Yeah. Thank God. My mother is straight from heaven, so like, thank God. She's like, okay, I'll get wood ones.
That almost sounds like a little bit of PTSD you're dealing with.
Maybe I don't even know, right?
Yeah.
But it's so weird.
Yeah. It very well could be. That happens a lot.
Well, it's a trauma, right? Like you went through trauma.
Yeah. Like Justin's not allowed to touch my neck. Like that's a thing. Like he's just not allowed to touch my neck.
And
I think he did it once, and I was like, no.
So when he grabs the back of your neck and kisses you, is that
no? It's just like there's no neck touching.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah, there's no neck touching.
So you would probably have to have a very safe vanilla sex life as well. Is that kind of safe to say?
No, not necessarily. Okay. There's just like certain things that like that's pretty much like the big one as far as like my body goes. So yeah.
So otherwise you have boundaries.
So there's no necessarily need for vanilla.
Healthy
no need for vanilla.
Interesting. You learned something new about Voula. Every time I say that,
I'm not ready for his questions. I'm not ready for his questions at all. I'm never.
I try to ask them in a subtle way.
You do. Yeah. You're very. It still shocks the shit out of me.
Yeah.
We're just new. We're new.
Yeah.
We're still developing our relationship and co-hosting each other. So
fair.
Jesus Christ, I'm not ready for that. I was not ready for that at all.
Sorry.
That's good. That's what
I appreciate your honesty. I'm not going to dig too much into that because I feel like tonight has been sort of about what you've gone through and what it took to kind of become yourself again. And how long did it take you to get the Voula back that you remembered?
That's a great question.
Okay, so this is I think because of Gatsby, I actually came out quicker than I probably would have if I didn't have it. Because I was just
the energy.
You know what?
War zone.
If I can survive this relationship, maybe it prepped you for Gatsby.
PTSD was probably from fucking Gatsby.
That's probably
true. It was a war zone.
But I literally was just thrown into something that I wasn't expecting. Mm-hmm. Like I was thrown into what I thought would be like, helping out running Robinson Hall and at the time Thorny Devil, right? Which was a great party, but like still everything was under control.
Right.
At no point did I ever realize that what I would be working on was going to literally be dancing on the bars, CO2, lights everywhere, crazy, like thousands of people coming through the door in a night. Like just that is not what I thought that I was going to be working on. Right? And you can imagine that is like operating 2 nights at that capacity takes a lot of preparation during the week.
Sure.
So I think there's this part of, it just goes back to like things happen for a reason. Mm-hmm. Like I think that just happened for a reason because it actually I think it absorbed all of that time that I thought that I probably would be dwelling on this situation or not really sure what to do with myself or like maybe just not being very maybe feeling depressed or feeling excited about life. There was just this world
Yeah.
of like
Perfect transition.
like of incredible energy, and I was surrounded by I made a ton of new friends.
Right. So
And
it's
I
just
met all new people, like, because no one really transitioned over from the other bar, right? So I met all new people. I was working with new people. It was a completely different environment, and I think it absorbed all of my thought process.
Yeah.
Between that and like CB, so it was amazing because I think that is kind of what got me out of and back into myself.
no kidding.
And
Isn't
it's
that-
so weird. Like
it
a
is.
bar did that, right?
But yeah, and normally we look at like that's the place people go to escape, but actually
Yeah.
it was a place where you went to kind of find yourself in a way.
Yeah, totally.
And and that's amazing. I think that story in itself is something that's just kind of like it's motivating because you didn't really have time to dwell on the past. It
No.
was just like this is what's going on in my life now. You had to be present to be running that place.
And I
fire.
think the thing that because I was running that place, that was a huge thing too, because one, I was working with somebody that I'd never worked before, like working with Nick, and he's an incredible person, and I learned a lot from him because there's a big age difference between the two of us.
Right.
It's like 6 years between us, but I actually learned a ton from him because he had a completely different perspective on how things should be,
Right.
and based on what I kind of was used to or what I learned. So it was cool just coming in and working with somebody who was so different.
Sure.
But also, I think because I was in a position where I was making decisions alongside with him, there was no time to dwell because I wasn't coming in doing a job and then leaving. Like I literally put I put so much
Into
blood,
that.
sweat, and tears into that place.
Right.
That's why I still talk about it, right? With such passion because it was like
it was a bit of your baby.
It
in a way.
was
Yeah.
my baby.
That's what
Yeah,
I'm gonna
totally.
actually ask you.
Yeah.
Do you feel because of Gatsby being of it being a little bit of mayhem, and that you're putting so much effort into it and so much control with the situation, you had the control? Do you feel like because of the lack of those things in the relationship, you gained them in this bar?
I've been asked that.
Really?
Okay, this is really funny. So I was asked this on Friday.
Because it's another relationship.
But it was worded
but
similar.
Gatsby was its own relationship.
Totally, Gatsby was a relationship, 100%.
Cool, yeah.
But somebody asked me if I work a lot, because I brought up my past.
No, just Gatsby itself.
No, I know your question, but
Yeah.
I wanna
in
hear this.
relation,
I
but
hear
the
this.
question was...
Fuck me,
do
right?
you- We don't care about your question anymore. We're moving on to new questions.
Keep going.
So somebody asked me if I work a lot or if I choose to work at the bar because I'm in control there.
Right.
And is that like a kind of a result of my previous relationship, which is sort of kind of like what you're asking
Ultimately,
me, right?
yes.
Yeah.
I was identifying Gatsby just for fixing a relationship. You couldn't fix that. You're fixing Gatsby.
Yeah, and that's fair. And you know what? I think part of it the answer is yes. And I don't see it as a bad thing.
Right.
But yeah, I think that there was I lost control of my whole entire life, and then I was put into a situation where I could
Regained
control
it.
something
Yeah.
and regain
Wow.
it. You know, and you know what? Like it kind of goes back to what you said earlier. Like there is something to be said about power. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like I
Power's
don't, you
addictive.
know, like
But
yeah.
there's healthy power and healthy control.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
And I think in the
100%
bar
agree with you.
situation, like there is, like it's so funny, but the reason why I occupy, or what occupies a lot of my time between like 12 and like 1:30 is this little stamp that I have that says Hudson on it,
Yeah.
right? Because I'm the one that walks around with it, and
You're the gatekeeper.
I'm the gatekeeper,
Ooh.
right?
Ooh.
Yeah. So it's totally true, but so there you kind of do feed off that. You know what I mean? It's
So that's a cool-
like,
that's a cool
if I
correlation.
would be lying if I said I didn't.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, so I
Yeah.
think there is some element of the fact that I was controlling the bar and making decisions and doing things.
You felt in control and
I felt in
independent.
control, and I like picked up my life from there.
So did that help you
Awesome.
into what you're doing now?
As far as like in my real estate stuff,
Well,
or
you
just in
obviously
like
it's not easy for like a petite woman to be confident and to be in control with other people that maybe large men, bitchy females.
I disagree.
Yeah.
I think you've always been good at handling that.
I think I've always been. I think honestly,
I don't know. I don't know. the
Yeah.
answer.
I think
well,
that
she handled you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But our viewers don't know.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Fair
yeah.
enough.
I kind of, my mom is very like, she tells it like it is, and she controls situations. And I think I've always grown up with that. Like I'm very close with my mom, and I think that's where I kind of learned it. So I've always kind of been like, I've just grown up in a leadership or take ownership position.
Right.
Like that's just kind of how I grew up in my family. But,
Leadership or take ownership position. I like that.
well,
It's like one or the other.
Yeah. Well,
Or they go hand in hand almost.
they go hand in hand,
Yeah.
right? Because if you're a leader
Yep.
and you are leading a group of people, you do need to take ownership of your decisions. Because if
Right.
you make the wrong decision, you have a whole bunch of people that are behind you who believe in you, and you have to
Be held accountable.
You
You
have
sink
to.
the ship.
You have to. Yeah, you could sink the ship. So
Yeah.
you have to be held accountable, and you have
Right.
to. You have to understand your own actions and how those affect everybody else, right? Because because those people are dependent on your decisions. If I make the wrong decision at the bar, if I make the wrong decision on a or advise somebody incorrectly in a deal, then there's a huge trickle down effect to that.
And when that happens, because I know that nobody's perfect.
Right.
So how do you go about taking that ownership? Is that a struggle with the ego a little bit, or are you pretty good at that?
No, I think what I've established is that if I make a mistake, I will admit that I've made a mistake, and I'm totally happy to fix it, and I will make sure that I fix it, and I will make sure that people know that, like, I fucked up, and this is what I'm doing to fix it.
And I think that's why people love you more, because that's being authentic, and that's not trying. You don't need to be right. If you make a mistake, you take ownership, you move on. I
think the biggest thing that I've learned, I know people always are like, fake it till you make it, and sometimes you have to. Sometimes you have to, you know what I mean? But I think that regardless of everything that happens in our society with social media and attention spans and everything, I think people still have the ability to see genuine people and still see people that know what they're doing.
Right.
And I think that people gravitate to those people, whether they do it consciously or subconsciously. They will gravitate to people who know what they're doing because they trust them and they trust their decisions.
Right.
And I can tell you that in my years of, like, just even working at the bar, when you're working with people who are trying to fill in a role, it never works because everybody around them will gravitate to, and it's not even because I'm trying, but they just naturally gravitate towards me.
You have that feel at the bar, though. I worked with you. You have that feel.
Just because they're just like, okay, but she's executing, so I should follow what she's doing because she's executing, right? Like, people actually do want to see hard evidence of people,
right?
They don't want the talk, they actually want the action.
Right.
So when you're doing the action, I think people start following you, and that's where it comes in. Like, if I fuck up, I'm just like, whoops.
Do you still bartend?
I wish I could.
You wish you could? You can't now.
I can't because I'm managing. But if, when Mike kind of like starts doing his role, I do want to do some like guest bartending shifts. I love bartending.
I want to bartend with her.
That's exactly what I was about to say.
Yeah, I want to bartend with her.
I love bartending.
I think we should all bartend
together.
One night, a slower night that us three of us did.
One night.
Hey, I'm down. I love talking to people.
Sure.
You can, just
so we can see you in your element.
Yeah, I want to see in your skill set.
Honestly, I will tell you that there's like Justin says this to me all the time. He's like, you were happiest when you were always bartending, and I'm like, I know, because I actually love doing it. Like, I love talking to people, and I love, like, interacting with people and meeting over the bar and like, how's your night going? What are you doing? What's new? You know what I mean? Like, I love that.
Yeah.
So, and now you can do it when you're managing.
Yep.
But I'm in the middle of a conversation with you, and then all of a sudden I get radioed to go do something, which is my job, and then I have to leave, right? So my conversations are usually really high level.
Yeah.
I never really get into it. But when you're bartending, the biggest thing your biggest problem is making a Ryan Coke. And it's like, that's my biggest problem for the night.
Sure.
Amazing. That's perfect. Or making sure the draft is perfectly poured.
I love how excited you get about these things.
Yeah. I get excited about everything now. You know what I mean? Like,
but that's awesome.
I just get excited about.
You have a passion for life.
And I'm fortunate that I'm in a situation that I like doing what I'm doing. So, I could sit there and talk to you about retail deals all day long.
That's awesome. Well, it sounds like every piece of your life right now is kind of falling into place.
Yeah.
And I don't want to jinx it, but it sounds like this whole journey for you right now is kind of all coming to fruition, if you will.
That's going around.
Yeah.
I think this is what goes back to me saying, like, as much as I could tell you, like, I hate the person that I was previously with. On the same token, I can also tell you that, like, sometimes I want to find him and be like, thanks for being an asshole for doing
he made.
Yeah, because he like turned me into a person that I never actually thought I could be.
Good for you.
And I'm like happy with who I am. I'm happy with
should be
my
We're
just
happy
my
with
soul.
You
know what I mean? Like, it just makes me happy. So I'm just. In some cases, thanks. Yeah. I'm in some cases thankful for the whole situation.
I can understand that, and it's always a good thing to have gratitude for any situation, even the rough ones. So
it's very important.
It has been a pleasure catching up with you, my dear.
It's been a pleasure being on.
I
actually feel like I've known you for a long time. I feel like I know you way more now. At a weird level. It's actually really cool.
No, this is for.
You're a great guest.
That's what this is
Thanks.
for. Deep conversation and meaningful connection.
Yep. That's awesome, because I was absolutely so nervous coming on today.
You said
Were you really?
Yes.
How do you feel now?
Yeah, I ran into him at Barney's and I told him, I was like, I am so nervous.
For any other guest, because here's
you're such a good sport. Thank you for coming.
For a next future guest, how would you describe? Do you feel nervous at all anymore?
No.
Was this a lot of fun?
Oh, totally.
Good.
Yeah, no, I don't feel nervous at all.
We want no pressure, have fun, enjoy yourself, and that's what we want for a guest.
And drink a lot of wine.
A little bit. Not a lot for me, I'm a big boy. I'm a big boy. I can handle my wine.
That's fair.
Attaboy.
Yeah.
And he did bring it, so
Yeah,
good for you.
that's okay.
Yeah.
Or is that the rosé? No,
we
that's
haven't touched that one up.
Okay, well,
Maybe
That's for later.
podcast. That's for lights out. Yeah.
Final words after everything you've gone through and the transition during your, like, I mean, what do you feel when I say right now that someone could be the exact spot where you were feeling like their life is falling apart, feeling fatigued? What do you say to them?
Or your daughter.
Yeah, or my daughter, if
Yeah.
God forbid she ever gets into that situation.
call.
I
Good
think
call.
the biggest thing that I would tell anybody is always know what your value is. Like every person. How is a tough one, right?
Yeah.
Like how you do it is a tough one because I don't think every person does it the same.
Okay.
But I think at some point you have to know that as a person, you are a contributing member of society.
Right.
Whether you're a mother, a sister, a friend, you will always be influencing somebody else.
Right.
And
message.
never ever get in, never let somebody tell you otherwise, because no matter what, it doesn't matter if you're having a bad day, a good day, or whatever, you're always influential in somebody else's life. If you, I just look, if I look at myself, all of my girlfriends make a huge contribution to my life, whether we speak on a daily basis or we don't speak on a daily basis, but just the fact that I know that they're even there just makes them a major part of my life.
Yeah.
So just, I think everybody needs to really understand their value, and they are a contributing factor.
Good.
And I think
message.
once you know your value, I think you're unstoppable.
Good.
Wow, good for you.
That's great.
That's great. That's a good message.
It
Thanks.
is.
That's good.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up there. Well, we've been going for a while
Had a
now.
great time.
Yeah, I had a great time too. It's awesome catching up with you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And we'll catch up a little more off camera, but thank you for tuning in for Women Crush Wednesday with Voula, Zervakos,
Yes.
and Brandon Ferris.
Thank you.
I'm Sean Evans. We will see you tomorrow. Tune in. We have a special podcast tomorrow. Potentially our biggest guest. I think it's
social media wise.
Social media wise, not everybody's equal, right? But from a social media standpoint, Dan Shab is going to be joining us. He is
My long friend.
Yep,
My
and
long
one of
friend.
the pun kings, I guess we could call him.
They're the pun kings of the world. Him and John Nani, aka Jessica Vasquez.
Yeah,
And
are we allowed
they're-
to say that?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, all right.
I can't. It's our fucking show.
Okay, all right.
But they are the guys, and they are running the pun world.
Absolutely,
Just say that.
absolutely. So tune in tomorrow at 9:00. That'll be a good one, guys. I don't know what we're gonna call it. It's technically Mental Health and Motivational Monday, bump to
You know
Thursday.
what?
We'll explain why tomorrow.
Considering our last cottage trip, it might be Fight Friday.
Yeah, we'll fill you in on that too and all the inside jokes. So
Awesome.
take care, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Should we do a high five?
That's it.
All right.
Come on, Voula. Get in
There we go.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye guys.